Thank you for listening to Heart Chat Stories. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to leave a comment and share these stories with someone who might need them. Each story is meant to help you pause, reflect, and think about your own relationships, how you love, how you heal, and how you grow. If you'd like more insight into the stories or want to add one to your next book club, visit graceguidance.com. You can find the full collection there, along with reflection prompts to keep the conversations going. And remember, every story in Heart Chat Stories is a chance to rediscover yourself, one honest chat at a time.
Orin Wild never expected to become a father, not at 32. But when his girlfriend tearfully told him she was pregnant, something inside him shifted. Responsibility, hope, pride. For 3 years, he poured himself into that role. He read bedtime stories, built tiny bookshelves, learned how to braid hair badly, and promised a little girl a life full of protection and love. Then the truth shattered everything. The child wasn't his. She had known from the start and lied anyway. She lied when she put his last name on the preschool form. She lied when she let him pay for medical visits. She lied when he held that little girl's hand and believed he belonged to her. The heartbreak wasn't losing the woman. It was losing the daughter he never truly had. The legal papers were clean, no biological connection, but his heart refused to sign off so neatly. He walked away. He swore off relationships, especially women with children, not because of the kids, but because he knew he couldn't survive losing one again. With his future wrecked, Orin rebuilt the only thing left standing, his skills. He launched Wild Works Contracting, a general contractor business that promised one simple thing: if it's broken, I'll fix it. Phones rang, jobs lined up. Word of mouth turned a bruised heart into a booked calendar. He repaired drywall, fences, roofs, and kitchens, anything that could distract him from what couldn't be repaired. But when the workday ended, sorrow showed up right on time. He didn't know where to take it, until he overheard 2 men talking in a cafe about a group that met at the Windsor West Solarium. A men's group. Small, private, real. Orin didn't do real. Real had hurt him enough. Still, he showed up. The solarium glowed warm with string lights and hanging greenery. Cushioned chairs arranged in a circle. A room built for truth. The kind that couldn't hide behind a half wall or fresh paint. He sat quietly the first week. By the third, silence cracked. His voice was low, like he feared the words might break again if spoken too loud. "I loved a child that wasn't mine," he said, "and I don't know how to stop missing her." Not a single man laughed. Not one said, "Just get over it." They simply listened, and that felt like healing. Slow healing. Honest healing. For the first time in a long while, Orin began to believe that maybe the best things in life weren't found in what you build with wood and metal, but in what you rebuild inside yourself. He wasn't ready for love. He wasn't even sure he believed in it anymore. Yet fate was already shifting. Soon, he would take a contract job in the solarium hallway, a simple repair that would become anything but simple.
Honesty Jacobs stood at the gate of the 1940s cottage she had just bought, keys cold against her palm. The house wasn't much by neighborhood standards. 1,900 square feet of quirky add-ons, mismatched windows, and a roof that needed love. But to her, it was a dream she built from scratch. 3 bedrooms, a sunroom with golden light, a den big enough for family movie nights, and best of all, an office with space to store every product she sold through her growing online shop. She earned this. Every late night packing orders, every marketing idea scribbled in a notebook, every penny saved instead of spent. Her 4-year-old son Chase deserved a home where he could grow into his own world. Drawings on the fridge, race cars under the couch, and muddy shoes left proudly by the door. But as she walked the uneven path toward the porch, her excitement thinned. The foundation was shifting, literally. Cracks crawled along the base of the home like warnings. The inspector's voice still echoed in her mind. It's safe from immediate danger, but it needs reinforcement before you move in. A few weeks of work if you find the right contractor. So, she and Chase weren't going home quite yet. Until repairs could begin, they were staying at Windsor West Resort, one of the perks of living near the coast. Villas designed like miniature homes with full kitchens, soft beds, and breezy porches. Chase loved afternoons by the ocean after preschool, running through the wet sand while she watched with a peace she hadn't felt in years. Maybe life wasn't in perfect order yet, but it was close. She took a deep breath, staring at the house that carried every hope she'd fought for. Stability, independence, safety, and a future she controlled. Honesty locked the gate and headed back to the resort where Chase and her mother waited, unaware that the man who would help rebuild her foundation, both home and heart, was already walking his own path toward hers. Honesty pushed open the villa door just as Chase launched himself toward her legs like a tiny rocket. "Mommy, you're back!" he shouted, his backpack sliding off one arm. His grandmother leaned out from the kitchen, the smell of garlic and baked chicken filling the air. "Honey, wash up. Dinner's almost ready," she called, waving a wooden spoon. Honesty smiled, the kind of smile that only came when her mother was near. "Give me 5 minutes," she replied. "I forgot to pick up those packages at the front desk. I'll run over before the post-side closes." Chase gasped dramatically. "Can I ride in the wagon?" "You always ask like I'm gonna say no," she teased, ruffling his curls. "Come on, let's go." They headed out together, Chase climbing into the little foldable wagon, rocking side to side as she pulled him down the lit pathway. The evening breeze carried the scent of saltwater and resort flowers, soothing, familiar.
The lobby staff greeted her as she walked up, already recognizing her routine. "Evening, Ms. Jacobs," one said, scanning her stack of mail. "We've got a few deliveries for your business again. Your shop must be booming." She chuckled, a mix of pride and exhaustion. "Booming enough to need a bigger house than my foundation wants to support." As they gathered packages into the wagon, Honesty drifted toward the solarium wing, curious about the construction she'd noticed earlier. The hallway walls were taped off in spots, fresh patches of mud smoothing over older cracks. New sconces leaned against the wall, waiting to be installed. A resort employee in uniform smiled as she approached. "We're finally updating this corridor. Storm damage a few months back." Honesty nodded. "Looks like someone knows what they're doing." "Oh, absolutely. We brought in a contractor who's been knocking it out like it's nothing." The employee lowered his voice like he was sharing a secret. "Name's Orin Wild. Real professional. He's also part of that men's group they do in the solarium. Good guy." Her eyebrows lifted. The timing was perfect. "Is he local?" she asked, casual but hopeful. "All local," the employee confirmed. "If you're looking for help with something, I can give you his card. He's taken on a few personal home jobs in the area." Chase, eavesdropping with wide eyes, popped up from the wagon. "We need help! Our house is broken!" Honesty swallowed a laugh and answered with honesty, her signature weakness and strength. "Foundation repairs," she admitted. "I've been searching for someone trustworthy." "Well," the staff member said, handing her a simple black and white business card, "you won't find anyone more solid than Wild Works." Honesty turned the card over in her hand, reading the name. Orin Wild, General Contractor, Wild Works. She didn't know why her heart gave a small, hopeful thump. Maybe it was just the relief of movement, another step towards settling into her real home. Or maybe it was something unspoken, the feeling that this name might matter. "Thank you," she said softly. As she wheeled Chase and a wagon full of packages back toward the villa, she tucked the card safely into her pocket. Tomorrow she would call. and that call would be the first crack in the walls Orin Wild thought would protect him forever. Orin's phone buzzed against the dashboard of his truck just as he finished loading tools from a morning job. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and checked the screen. One new voicemail, unknown number. He almost ignored it. New clients usually meant new expectations, and those came with plenty of room for disappointment. But work was work, and distraction was survival, so he pressed play. "Hello, Mr. Wild. My name is Honesty Jacobs." He froze. "Honesty? Seriously?"
I was referred to you by the Windsor West staff. I'm having foundation trouble with a home I just bought, and I'd appreciate an estimate when you're available. You were highly recommended. Thank you. The message clicked off. A woman, with a house, with foundation issues. He rubbed the ache in his chest, old memories pushing forward like weeds through concrete. Don't assume she has kids, he told himself. Not everyone lies. Still, he didn't call right away. He drove to lunch, finished another job, argued with himself twice. By late afternoon, he finally hit redial. She answered on the second ring, voice warm, hopeful, and against better judgment, he scheduled a visit for 10 a.m. the next morning. The cottage waited at the end of the cracked driveway, a place that had lived a long life and wanted someone to restore its confidence. He was adjusting his measuring tape when the front door opened. She stepped out. Honesty Jacobs. Young, but with the weight of someone who'd had to grow up faster than planned. Curls pulled into a loose bun. No makeup besides that unmistakable look in her eyes. Determination in one iris, exhaustion in the other. She walked toward him with her hand out, breath catching slightly as if she realized this moment mattered. "You must be Orin Wild," she said, offering a nervous but hopeful smile. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," he replied. His voice came out more guarded than he intended. He wasn't used to small talk anymore, or big emotions. She led him around the property. He noticed details most people missed: uneven settling, hairline cracks branching beneath the stucco, moisture pockets under the crawl space. But he also noticed her. She listened carefully, asked smart questions. She wasn't trying to impress him, she just wanted to understand, and he respected that more than he expected. When they finished the walk-around, they paused near the front steps. "So what's the verdict?" she asked, folding her arms to brace herself. "It can be repaired," he said, voice steady. "It's going to take some reinforcement, but it's not beyond saving." Her shoulders dropped with visible relief. "Thank God. I was scared I'd bought a lost cause." He shook his head. "Not a lost cause. Just needs support." The way she looked at him then made his chest tighten, like she heard more truth in his words than he'd meant to reveal. "Well," she said softly, "that's what I'm trying to do. Build a life that won't fall apart." He swallowed. Too familiar. Too close. He cleared his throat and shifted gears. "I'll put together the quote tonight. You'll have it tomorrow." "Thank you," she said, that warmth returning to her voice. "I really appreciate you." He nodded once and turned to leave, desperate to keep the armor up. But halfway to his truck, he made the mistake of glancing back. She was still there, watching him like she wasn't sure if she'd just met a contractor or someone who might matter. And that was the first crack in a foundation he swore he'd never rebuild. After Orin left the property, Honesty remained on the porch for a moment, letting silence fill the space where hope had just landed. She pressed her hand against the wood rail, steadying herself, because the truth was, this house wasn't just a house. It was proof. Proof she could build a life that wouldn't crumble. She locked up and drove back to the resort villas where her mother waited with Chase. As she walked inside, she found him sprawled on the living room floor, coloring dinosaurs, unaware of the complicated world adults built around him. Her mother glanced up from folding laundry. "How'd it go?" "I think I found the right person," Honesty said, setting her bag down. But the weight didn't lift. Not yet. Her mother noticed. She always did.
Sit, she urged gently. Honesty sat. There are certain stories that still hurt to say out loud, even when everyone already knows them. Court date is in a few weeks, Honesty began, voice steady but thin. Her mother stopped folding. His father's lawyer requested a home study, she continued. They want proof Chase will have stability, a permanent home, a safe environment. Her mother sighed, tired, not frustrated. And this house is your anchor, Honesty nodded. Most people didn't understand. They looked at Chase and assumed he was her biological child, because she loved him like one. But Chase wasn't born from her body. He was born from a promise. Leah, her best friend, the kind of friend you grow up with and never picture a world without, had crumbled under the weight of postpartum depression and heartbreak. She left a note and a will. Honesty will take care of Chase. She's the only one I trust. Honesty lived every day honoring that trust. But now, Chase's biological father wanted back in, a man who had left before birth, who spent years behind bars, who rediscovered purpose and suddenly felt entitled to the child he abandoned. Leah's will should hold, her mother said, voice firm. It should, Honesty agreed, but should and will aren't the same thing. If I can't prove stability, if the judge thinks Chase will have more resources with him, her voice cracked. Her mother rested a warm hand over hers. Chase is already home with you, Honesty closed her eyes, because she needed to believe that, because she could handle anything except losing him. She looked across the room at the little boy who trusted her with his entire world. He looked up, smiling bright. "Mommy, look! My dinosaur is flying!" Honesty smiled back, soft, aching. "Wow, baby, that's amazing." She would move mountains for him. She would pour concrete and reinforce steel for him. She would fight courts and fear and everything in between for him. Because stability wasn't what she wanted. It was what he deserved. Her hand slipped into her pocket, brushing against the business card she'd tucked there hours earlier. Orin Wild, a stranger with steady hands, someone who seemed to understand broken foundations better than most. She didn't know anything about him yet, but she knew she needed his help. And maybe, one day, she would learn that he needed hers, too. Orin sat in his truck a moment longer than necessary. The freshly printed quote rested in the folder on the passenger seat, a simple document that somehow felt heavier than steel beams and concrete. He hadn't been nervous about work in years, but this wasn't about work. He finally grabbed the folder and walked to the cottage, noticing the sunlight catching the curve of the sunroom windows. The house might have been tilted with age, but it had charm, just like the woman who opened the door before he could knock. "Good morning," Honesty said, stepping aside. She had changed into jeans and a soft green top, hair down around her shoulders. The light made her skin glow like warmth personified. "Come in." He tried to keep his focus on the job. He failed. They sat at the bare dining table. No chairs yet, just two folding stools. The air between them held a strange mix of nerves and familiarity. Orin opened the folder and slid the quote toward her. "This outlines the foundation reinforcement and moisture barrier. It's a solid plan." She scanned through the numbers, biting her lip in concentration, and he had to look away before his thoughts slipped somewhere they hadn't gone in a long time. "It's more than I wanted to spend," she admitted softly, "but less than I feared." "That's the sweet spot I aim for," he said, leaning back a little. "I want to keep the house standing, and you still able to sleep at night." That earned him a smile he felt in places he thought had gone numb. She set the papers down. "How long have you been a contractor?" "About 3 years on and off," he said, fingers drumming the table gently. "Went full-time a 1.5 years ago. Needed to build something that wouldn't lie to me." He didn't mean to share so much. Honesty didn't pry, but her eyes softened like she understood anyway. "What about you?" he asked, wanting the attention off his scars. Honesty straightened with a quiet pride. I work with independent shop owners, handmade products, small brands. I sell through my online store and help them get exposure they wouldn't find alone. He nodded, impressed. So you build things too? She laughed softly. Not with wood and power tools, more like marketing and community. But yeah, building something that lasts. And the house plays into that? He asked. Yes, she took a breath. Once it's stable, I can store more inventory, maybe host in-person pop-ups. I've even thought about opening a shop one day, but that might be too far-fetched. Orin's response came quicker than his logic could stop it. Nothing's too far-fetched if you believe in what you're doing. His voice was steady, firm, and it sounds like you're doing something amazing.
Honesty's eyes flickered with surprise, then gratitude.
Thank you. That means more than you know. Something sparked between them. Real, quiet, dangerous. Orin cleared his throat, shifting to something he could control. If you decide to move forward, I can start in 2 weeks. Earlier, if another project wraps faster. She held his gaze, a long, searching moment. I want you to do it, she said. That should have made him feel proud. Instead, it made him feel exposed, responsible, seen. All right, he replied, trying not to sound too affected. We'll take it one step at a time. Honesty nodded. One fix at a time. They stood. He handed her his card to sign for the agreement. When their fingers brushed, accidental but electric, he almost dropped the pen. He needed to leave, fast. Thank you for the opportunity, he said, turning toward the door. Thank you for helping me build a life, she answered. He paused, because the words landed deeper than she probably intended. Outside, he exhaled hard, gripping the steering wheel before he drove off. He'd kept himself too busy to think about love, too guarded to feel attraction, too wounded to consider possibility. Yet here he was, shaken by a woman whose name was the one thing he thought he'd never trust again. Honesty.
Thank you for listening to Heart Chat Stories. Every story is written with love, to heal, to inspire, and to remind you that new beginnings are always possible. If this touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so others can find healing through story. Until next time, keep your heart open and your spirit lifted.